Good morning, everyone. So glad you found us on The Map, the Mental Health and Addiction Podcast. I'm Kimberly Walsh. I'm here with my compadres, the awesome Andy Panda Bernstein, whoop, whoop, and the fantastic Chris Perry Long, and of course, Michael Weber at the studio making it all happen.
On the wheels of steel.
On the wheels of steel. There he goes.
Yeah.
So before we meet our guest today, let me tell you a little bit about who we are. Chris Long has been in the industry for many years, dedicating herself to working with families and helping people get into treatment. Andy has been an advocate for mental health and addiction, both as the producer of Crosscheck Radio, as well as through his own experiences. As for me, I have an extensive background in recovery and am the founder of Brady's Landing, which is a sober home for women in the Cape. We put this podcast together because all three of us are passionate about reducing the stigma around mental health and addiction. We believe that the more light we shed on these topics, the less people will stigmatize and punish those who suffer from mental illness and addiction, which will then help encourage them to seek treatment. So during the podcast, please post your questions. We will answer them during the show. Remember to tag friends and share this link with people who might benefit from the information we're providing. And finally, all of our episodes are now available on iTunes, Stitcher, and TuneIn. So you can watch us live, and you can watch us live on Facebook and YouTube. Okay, guys, that's the intro. So let's check in. We'll start with Panda, since Chris is feverishly sharing.
She's very, very, very busy.
Very good.
Very, very, very busy. I'm okay. A little stressed. I'm not going to lie. A little stressed. But I'm going to get through it. I'm good.
What's stressing you, my friend?
Well, so my doggie went into the hospital yesterday. She had a little injury. And the news, I got to stay away from the news.
Yep.
News is no bueno. No bueno. No.
I agree.
So, but I'm trying to, I'm just kind of over it all.
Yeah, tell me. It's a bit unnerving. Right. Yeah.
It's life.
It's not that you fall down, it's how you get up, right?
That's it. And like Rocky says, it's not how hard you get hit, but how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward.
Good old Rocky.
Rocky. That's right. So, I'm good.
Good. All right. What do you think, Chris? How are you?
I'm all right. Like Andy said, you got to stay away from the news. Last night, I hadn't been watching the news at all. And I've been actually really busy, something new. So I've been making a point not to watch the news. And then last night I was watching the riots in Brockton, and my daughter, who lives in California, is very into this, Black Lives Matters. And I think it's great. I at 24, she's very in tune to what's going on in the world and all of that. And having been the younger sister of somebody, going through, watching her siblings go through addiction and all the trials and tribulations, I think she's a little more sensitive to events that are going on in the world. And she actually brought light to something. I didn't know that there was a list of businesses owned by Black people. And so last night for dinner, she was going to a restaurant that was owned and run by Black people. I had no idea that people, I guess I just took it for granted. And it kind of made me think about she's 24 and she's thinking that deep with her friends into, lives. And, I don't know. I mean, I think the world's just a big mess, and everything was COVID. We breathed COVID.
And we flipped it on us.
And now we don't hear anything about COVID. Nothing.
Yesterday's news. Yesterday's news.
That's old stuff.
That's the media. That's the media for you.
Yeah. I posted yesterday, the day before. I'm like, wouldn't it be nice if the news started out with all the good things that happen in the world?
Doesn't sell.
The comments were like, nobody would watch it. How sad is that?
People thrive on fear somehow. I think it's what we've fed for so long that we get used to it, and we kind of, ooh, we want that gossip. We want that. What's going on? Why is it bad? Oh my God, I'm scared. We have to
It's sad.
not
Draws
embrace it.
ratings. It draws ratings. And
Yeah,
I'll tell
it
you,
does. It
I
does.
remember when I worked in television, and I worked for one of the CBS stations, and they would have, when they knew there was snow coming, they were so excited because they could blow up network programming. So they could blow up soap operas, they could blow up stuff the network had, so they can come up with their own snow show, for local programming. And then that would be great for them because they could generate all the news revenue that came in, went directly to them, not to, they didn't have to take network, they got to control all the money, not waiting for the network. It was the network's money that was running during the day. But when they could get rid of the programming and go to CBS and said, hey, we got a big snowstorm coming, we want to do local coverage, they made a lot of money, and they scare you. That's what they do.
I know.
So
you're gonna get lost in the storm. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's like watching a train wreck, and everybody, it's like, don't you think? I mean,
yeah.
I remember growing up, because I grew up on Nantucket, and if a storm was coming, like everybody, there's only 2 grocery stores on the island, and everybody would flock to the grocery stores, and literally, like, there's no milk and there's no bread, and that was real. Like, we never got snow though, because we were an island surrounded by saltwater ocean, and we did get snow, but never to the point, you know what I mean? It was just, it's fear driven.
It is fear driven, totally. And, it's funny, I read an article today. So my father-in-law, quick story, my father-in-law has been in the ski and bike business for 50 years. He's 92 years old. He still works like 7 days a week. The bike business was dead. Now he sold out all of his bikes. Matter of fact, CNN just wrote an article that it's the new toilet paper. Buying bikes are the new toilet paper. Like, it's a have to have type of thing. So it only takes a pandemic for my father-in-law to get the business that he's always wanted to have. Hey. So
now that he's how old? 92?
Yeah.
He's a millionaire now, and he's never going to be able to enjoy it.
I know, but he loves it. It's his whole, his whole thing. But it was like hysterical that he got rid of all his bikes, because there's some days he wouldn't even have a customer in the store.
Sure.
And now, so the panic of everything,
right.
So anyway, speaking of seeing, what's that? How are you, by the way?
Really good, really good. Actually, I was listening to a podcast this morning on how to handle it when people have spoken out against you, or when someone comes at you angrily. Or it was this great podcast, and it said our natural instinct is to fight back because we want to protect ourselves, but or become the victim. You do one of the 2 things. Mm-hmm. Like, I can't believe what they said about me. But the best way to handle that is honesty. And to tell them exactly what they said hurt your feelings and how it affected you. And then that's it. Keep it about you, and it has nothing to do with them, because obviously they have the issue. And it's kind of just a matter of fact, which I thought was really interesting. I like that.
I like saying, keep your name out my name out of your mouth.
It's about me. Not my monkey, not my zoo.
Yeah, keep my name out your mouth.
Right.
I'm just kidding. That's cool. That. So you're hanging.
Yeah. So I'm doing good.
That's good.
So you had an article for us, didn't you?
I did. We always talk about everybody knows there's a mental health crisis. It's no secret. And, trying to work in the solution, I came across something that I thought would be kind of cool. And Chris is going to talk to us, but the title is called 5 Ways to Boost Your Mental Health During Stressful Times. It was in yesterday's CNN.com website, and it was by Sandy Lamott. So, Chris, tell us about some things in that article.
Look at her face. You want us to paraphrase for you?
Oh, I might not have looked at that article yet.
Okay.
And you want you and I to go through it?
Sure.
Okay.
Sure.
All right.
Chris is calling Chris. She wasn't ready. Okay.
Sorry.
That's all right. One is get enough exercise. And it says, if you had to choose one thing to do better, your mental health and physical health, choose to exercise on a regular basis. So they're saying that, it comes from the best results come from rhythmic exercises, which get your blood pumping in a major muscle group. And that includes running, swimming, cycling, and walking. So that's one of the things they're saying, a brisk walk or a jog. They're also talking about better sleep, developing a sleep routine, avoiding certain foods and drink, and
caffeine.
Caffeine and alcohol. How
What
about
do you
that?
use?
Yeah.
How about that? What do you use, Andy, to fall asleep? Do you use any of these tips they're saying?
No.
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 You just hit the pillow and you're out. You're one of the lucky
Absolutely
ones.
not. No. Last night I was watching the Steelers-Rams 1980 Super Bowl.
Who won?
Wow.
The Steelers won. The Steelers won. But I work at it. I'm working at it. We bought a new mattress, trying to do some stuff. But yeah, so I'm trying to calm my mind a little bit.
There you go. There you go.
Yeah. Also says strive for cooler temperatures and keep yourself in the dark, like Chris is right now. They also suggest deep breathing.
That's hard. Do you know how hard it is to take a deep breath when you can feel the anxiety? So the other night I couldn't sleep. So I put my calm thing on my phone and I had my headphones in and the lady's going, now take a deep breath, breathe in, hold for 5, 4. And I'm like, who's talking to me?
Was she British?
No, but it was just like monotone. I mean, it was very relaxing. But then she's like, all right, breathe out. And like, we're going to do this 5 times. I tried, but I'm like, and my anxiety was still going boom, 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 boom. It's shutting your mind off is so hard.
Right.
Yeah,
right. They have an app that actually reads you a story, like a bedtime story.
I like that.
Cool. Yeah, it was fun.
What were some of the other things in the article?
Oh, to avoid caffeine, meditation and music, right?
Yeah.
And to get on a routine. Like, I'm going to go to bed at this time. I'm going to wake up at this time. And then so your body gets used to that cycle.
And they also talked about
about yoga. Taking up yoga, right?
Yep. Yoga's always a good thing. I liked yoga. I actually did yoga for a while. It was good. I did it with a bunch of women. I did. It was great. I loved it.
Yeah.
Loved it. And my wife. Yeah.
There you go. It releases endorphins, and just like exercise, the endorphins are like a natural high as opposed to a chemical high. So people coming off substances or alcohol, they say it's so important to do some sort of physical exercise, and including yoga, which is more relaxing, but it still gives you that benefit.
It still gives you the benefit. So anyway, check the article out. It's without reading too much into on it. Mike posted it on, just showed it on the site, and we'll or on the screen, and we'll post it on our Facebook page as well. And we'll try to keep those coming because we want to obviously work in the solution and not the problem, right?
Ding ding.
All right. All right. So let's meet our guest. We have a good guest today. Love her.
Let's meet Spunky.
Vivacious one. Let's welcome. She's one of the silliest persons, one of the silliest people I know, but is also incredibly remarkable. She's my friend. We worked together for over 2 years doing our cross-check show, and she is a treatment representative for Delphi Behavioral Health Group. She is a person in long-term recovery and has been in the field of addiction treatment for over 10 years. Let's welcome the great, the one, the only Alyssa Horton. How are you, friend?
Unmute.
Unmute.
There we go.
There she is.
Good.
What's going on? Good to see you. Good to see you.
Good to see you.
I know. Silly, right? We're looking at each other on a screen.
I know.
But it's all good. So what's going on? How you been doing with the COVID? By the way, you know everybody, right?
Yes. Hey, Chris. Thank you.
Okay.
Hi, guys. Hi.
Adapting as best I can. Not much I can do. You know, as I told you, our wedding was rescheduled. That happened right in the beginning. And, you know, what can you do? Everyone's safety is more important than the day. So you just got to try and make the best of the situation. That's what we're doing.
It's just a name anyway. You've been.
It's a name no one's going to be able to pronounce anyway. So I'm okay.
Is it? What is it?
Badukowitz.
No, it isn't. That's made up. Is it?
Dukowitz. Wow.
The Polish pronunciation is Budikiewicz.
I'm going to call you the Polish Hammer now.
Polish.
The Polish Hammer. All right. So, wanted you to come on, tell your story. You have an interesting story. You are a very dedicated professional in the field of addiction, but it didn't happen overnight. You had a lot that got you to this point. So, tell us about kind of your world.
Of course.
Don't start laughing at me.
I'm a smiling, laughing person.
I know you are.
It's even in awkward situations, it makes it worse. But yeah, no, so I am a person in long-term recovery. What that means, I haven't drank or used drugs since August 4th, 2008.
Whoop, whoop.
Whoop, whoop.
Yeah, coming up on another number. But, you know, my story is just like the feelings when I was younger were really overwhelming. And at a young age, I found alcohol at first. It gave me some relief for the constant fear that I was living in. I grew up in an alcoholic home. I knew the damage it could do, but you know, the intellect of that did not stop me from experimenting myself. And, you know, it just progressively got worse from there. You know, it was the solution to the problem that I was having at that time, and I couldn't muster any other kind of coping skill. It seemed like the only way for me to survive was going to be with substances. It graduated to more substances and much more devastation. You know, I've been forced into treatment since I was 14 years old.
Wow.
Yeah, mostly by the state. I grew up in New York.
In an affluent town, right? You grew up in a nice suburb, right?
Yeah, yep. My mom was a teacher. My stepdad owned a company in New York City. My dad had been in construction, working on major jobs with huge companies for a long time. You know, my dad did eventually find recovery. My cousin was in recovery since she was 18 years old. I had a lot of positive recovery influences in my life, but I just could not see it.
It got pretty bad for you too, right? I mean,
I graduated high school, but that was by the skin of my teeth. I'd overdosed twice on alcohol. I was in an IOP from 15 to 18. You know, being in New York City and it being a playground, it's not really the best of places to be an out of control young adult, especially a female. So that definitely had made my story a little bit more scary at times. You know, bartended, which is not a good job for a young alcoholic either. And that got me into
alcoholic or an old alcoholic for that.
Oh yeah.
Or a wannabe alcoholic.
Or a wannabe alcoholic, right?
It's a bad job in general for people like me. But yeah, so that got me into a lot. It introduced me to some more people, other substances, a different lifestyle than I was used to. You know, I grew up in a suburban town and was exposed to areas that I was not familiar with. Changed my personality, changed how I carried myself. You know, I was raised to be a respectful young woman, and it wasn't at all. I had no respect for myself or anyone around me.
So when did it all change for you? What was the defining moment?
Or how did it change for you?
How did it change?
Yeah.
What's it like now?
So the change, I always like to say it was like the prayers of my family, because I really did not see recovery as an option. Which I think a lot of people feel like that. It's too scary to really approach. It's a drastic change from living the way I was. So I think that it was the prayers of them. I was homeless. I was living on a drug dealer's couch, and I walked past a mirror one day and realized this is not who I am. This is not the memories I want to leave my family. They didn't do anything to deserve what I had done, and, you know, stressing them out every day that their daughter was dead. My mom would constantly remind me she might have to identify my body one day. And it just finally hit me. Like, I just had a moment of clarity where I was like, this is not how I want to live. And I came up to Massachusetts, got into a sober house, joined a 12-step fellowship, and just did what people told me to do. And it's been an amazing journey, you know, coming up on 12 years, and working in the field since I was just over a year sober has definitely, you know, helped my growth a lot. It's refocused me. Like, I have a purpose every day in my life, something that I never had in the past. You know, I'm able to look in the mirror, not have a poor reflection. I'm happy with the memories. You know, I'm a good daughter today, a good cousin, a good friend. All these things that recovery have given me.
Guys, ladies.
Yeah, no, I can totally relate to your story, obviously, in recovery too. But yeah, I absolutely relate to that. The family, the whole thing, coming up, you know, getting in the industry early on. It's been a wild ride, but I absolutely can relate to a lot of the things you said in your story. Instead of bartending, though, I was a cocktail waitress. So, I mean, 6 to 1.
That much is true.
Yeah.
Like the Human League song, I was working as a waiter. Never mind.
I do know that song. Yeah. So yeah, that wasn't a good place to be. Not exactly conducive to, you know, recovery and not drinking. So yeah, I understood that part too. But yeah,
Chris, what are your take?
So what would your one line message be to 15 or 16-year-old girls? Okay, because we know the treatment options for them are very limited. 15 or 16 years old, and they find themselves, because we know they exist, in the throes of addiction, sleeping on a drug dealer's bed, or couch. You know what I mean? What would your message be to help them realize that they do have purpose?
Just that they're worth more than the way they're living. It's the only thing I needed to hear, is that I was worth more than that. Because I didn't feel like it. That's what landed me there. It's how I feel. It's just not having that self-worth to really value my life.
That's a hard message to convince somebody when they're, you know, they're dark.
It is.
In the throes of it. You know, we joke about it. You are silly. You are a silly person. But how does humor keep you, how does it help your sobriety? Or does it?
It does. I mean, it's, you know, I like to say my dad and I had that very much of a connection. You know, when he became sober and I was sober, it was a big thing in my life where it was just like, you know, as much as this is a serious life or death situation, if I'm not enjoying it, then it's going to be more difficult to stay doing it. So, you know, I try to make my life as light as possible, because any amount of darkness for me is dangerous.
And being around dark people really is dangerous for you too, right?
Yeah. If I'm not full of light, being around darkness can really drag me down.
It's interesting what you said, you know, Andy, being around darkness, but in what Alyssa and I do in helping people, that's all that we're around is darkness. And so I'm not in recovery, we know that, but we're their light. And so, you know, Alyssa is that light at the end of the tunnel for people, and her lived experiences are something that can pull people out of the darkness and into the light. I think it's a challenge, and she is very funny. She got me into a lot of trouble hold on, Alexa, off. It goes on every now and again, the magic words. Got me into trouble. Do you remember when you got me? It was a Halloween event. Yeah, she got me into trouble. Chris did it. Blame the old lady. Alexa, off.
One of the funniest nights of my life was with Alyssa.
Oh gosh.
It was so funny and we were, I mean, stone cold. So, I mean, everybody, but it was it was me and 3 girls and a guy who I don't want to mention his name, but we were out to dinner with him. He's like, yeah, it's all on me. You know, I'm going to eat. He ate it like he ate like he was on death row. And the food came in and it was piled up high. And he's like, I know the people here and blah, blah, blah. Bill comes. Oh, that's a big one. And then we all had to pay. Like it was like a $500 bill. And we all had to pay. And it was like, it was just a very crazy night. But all right. So tell us. So tell us.
So random, Andy. What was the point? There was nothing funny.
My point is that she was sober and she was having a really good time, and she was very silly that night, and it was.
He's missing part of the story. Part of the story is we also ended up at a cigar bar in Boston.
Oh.
And it got more and like because there was like mic checks, like fake
mic check. Oh, let him in.
You had to be there, right?
Yeah, tons of inside jokes.
It was just one of the funniest nights. We still joke about it now. Okay, so you are now working in the field. Well, you've been working in the field, but what are you doing today? And tell us about kind of your career path now.
Yeah, so I started in the field working directly with patients in a detox facility. I've done admissions, recovery coaching. I built an alumni program for the last facility I worked for. So all of that's kind of brought me to here where now I'm helping people find treatment anywhere, really. Anyone that calls me, it's my passion, and my company encourages that I help all people, however I best can, find their first step into recovery. And then I also do our New England area alumni program because Delphi is a national program. We have facilities here, Maryland, Jersey, Florida, and California.
The three of you are all very dedicated people, and I know that other people don't necessarily operate like you guys do, ladies do, where, if somebody needs help, you're not necessarily have your own agenda. You try to find really the right fit for people. Would you agree? Would everybody agree to that?
You froze. I said I missed it.
Oh, I said that the three of you working in treatment have been able to, you're very dedicated people. So if somebody actually needs help, you will find them the right place, not necessarily what serves you, but more of
like the year you're saying. Yeah, in other words, if they don't fit here, you find them somewhere to go. If they're not a good fit for your particular treatment center, you still want to help them, so you send them to the right place.
Right. Getting to know your person, getting to know your client is, I thrive on that. I thrive on that.
Necessary.
Yep.
Right.
100%. Yep.
So with Delphi, what makes Delphi unique? Obviously in your, you've worked for a couple of another treatment facility. What makes Delphi unique compared to the other treatment? Because I know you wouldn't go work for a place if you didn't stand by it, right? If you didn't believe in it, you wouldn't be there. I know that. I know that for a fact. You wouldn't do it.
No, I can't. If I send somebody somewhere, I want to know that they're okay. I won't be able to sleep at night if they're not. Delphi, it's really like, as much as we're a national company. Hold on, Casey, don't bark. Sorry, it's my dog. He wants to be featured. But no, so
who wouldn't?
Delphi is a national program. We're very small. We're a very tight team. We have teams all across the nation, like I said, but I can call my coworker in Arizona and ask for help if I get a call from someone else in the area. It's just giving me much more grasp. Instead of having to Google a facility in an area I'm not familiar with, I have access to somebody. And then for our treatment centers, our national standard is an 8-to-1 ratio. So 8 clients to 1 clinician and 1 case manager. And even that's usually that's at the maximum. Usually it's a little bit less than that. So people are actually getting the chance to meet with their team more often. And we're constantly trying to keep to that standard that we offer this care. And, we opened a mental health facility and dual diagnosis to better treat those that were calling us, because it's a difficult thing to be like, no, we can't help you. We're constantly trying to grow towards that. So, I mean, how can I not, work for a company like this? They're just continuously trying to take care of the needs of the people we serve.
Chris, Kimberly.
Yeah, I mean, that's a dream job. I have not a lengthy resume, but I have a resume, and it's, they always hire you and say, that's such a great quality, go for it. And then when push comes to shove and it becomes a heads on beds, it's hard. It's like, I live with morals and values. And I think the reason that I do the way I do is because it's my kids' lived experiences and the places that they've been in and the people that have put them in some of those places. It's what I always say to myself, would I be okay with my child being here? That's the key. Do I trust this person with my child? Even it's obviously not my child, but that's what's important to me. And I think, it's hard. I think it's shifting though. And I think after COVID, what do you think is going to happen after COVID? Like some of these places are going to go by the wayside.
After the spike, you mean? I think you're right. You're right. Yeah. There's a lot more niches being formed, there's a lot more different, like this place will serve this community. This place will serve this community. And would you agree, Alyssa, that they're kind of getting more narrow in their focus? Yeah. Well, sort of to say that, if you've got someone with a mental illness, that's that's primary, that should be treated separately than the substance abuse issue. You come in and they go hand in hand, but once you kind of look at it, you need to really address the mental illness that was behind substance abuse.
Yeah, I mean, my experience has been, you have to do both, but unfortunately, like a lot of centers, like I like that we then went into it because we have both the substance abuse and the mental health, but like we're trained in both now for our facility, because like that's the one thing that I see in LAPS is like when we're dual diagnosis, but we're more specialized in one than the other, because then one will always go, have lesser, taught coping skills or less maintenance introduced. And there's the niche, and it's definitely difficult. With COVID going on, I thought it would be, a much more drastic drop. I mean, I've run into some doctors where they're telling people to not go to treatment.
Why?
Because they're in danger of getting COVID.
Okay.
And it was like horrifying because, these people are using substances in which they could overdose. So like, that was my fear when the few times I had heard that, but, people are still seeking treatment, and I'm really grateful for that, because this is a difficult time for people in early recovery or even just discovering mental illness or trying to finally take care of it, because there's all these added stress. There's less, there's more isolation. There's less connection physically. It's a lot for people to learn to do. I have some experience being okay by myself now, but, it's been years for me.
Not in early recovery, that's the worst time.
Yeah.
You need the connection.
It's terrifying.
So, Alyssa, you say Adelphi is dual diagnosis.
Mm-hmm.
What does that look like?
So it's our Vista Pines facility in Florida. So we don't do it at every facility. So it just means that we also have trained professionals, a psych nurse on site, so that they can get addressed for both. Our classes, our groups are more focused on addressing both as opposed to just addressing one or the other. Because that's really where it comes in. It's like, you can't just have a group where it's like, oh, this is how you handle your mental health, because some of the things you handle with your mental health also have to be for both. It's the thing. It's like that seesaw. If one goes unaddressed, the other one's going to act up.
Right.
We have a surprise for you, by the way.
I see.
Oh, there he is.
Sneaky.
I mean, I think that, like, we talk about this all the time, and hi, Willie. We talk about this all the time, in that, so you get somebody clear-minded and you get the substances out, and then the mental health creeps back in, and the substance abuse is what they've been using to deal with the mental health side of it. And before you know it, they're back, they've relapsed. And it's like, at what point do we really, like, you know, we know that there are not very many dual diagnosis programs. They say they're dual, but they're not, because they're not addressing it.
Well, we have a one of our special guests, one of my my peeps. I actually before we get to him, Willie, Alyssa, you had said that you were in a sober living facility, home. Kimberly has Brady's Landing sober living. Tell us about sober living and the advantages to it, if you would.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, of course. I'll sell it right away. I love it. I'm like a huge advocate for sober housing. I mean, you know, there's like some, Brady's Landing is an amazing one. And unfortunately not everybody is, but if you find the right sober house, the amount of accountability that you have, because as much as I did know how to function in life, I needed to be directed. Like, I didn't know that, like, I should go to bed at a certain time. I'd been living a completely, literally, I was living so irrational that, like, just the basic skills I knew how to do, but didn't know how to tell myself or make myself do it. Or like the fact that I came home to a bunch of women that were in the same boat as me, all trying to better their lives and rebuild these connections. And we got to, like, support and learn from each other. Like, I learned how to handle living with my fiance, who's a mess.
Because you went to sober living.
Women.
Yeah.
I'm okay now. Like, when he doesn't clean the dishes, I'm like, well, that's fine. No need to pick my battles. Learn that really early on. Like, there's just so many benefits to it. Like, I miss it sometimes. Like, I'm still close to a couple of the women that I lived with, and we just had such an amazing small community in our own home. And, like, we encouraged each other to, like, continue on our recovery journeys, and, you know, talked about, like, what's the benefits to all of it, like, really oddly. Or we'd have, like, you know, this is not around anymore, which makes me feel like kind of older saying this, but, like, FearNet was a thing on Comcast.
What is that? I never heard of that.
Yeah, so it's like a rated D horror movie. Like, it was just, like, really poorly, but we'd watch them, like, as a group together, and, like, make, like, our house dinners, and, like, have, you know, horror eat night, or, like, dance parties at, like, midnight, when we were like, again, you know, just random weird things.
That is a trip. That is, and you're right, Alyssa. I've got one of the gals said, she called her daughter and said, you're not going to believe this. I ate vegetables and I did yoga. And they were like, yay! No, you didn't, Mom. No, you didn't. No, I did. It's so funny. It's just the little things. She's like, I didn't know when to go to sleep. I didn't know that I had, you know, a routine is so important. And like with the niche thing too, it's like, well, okay, so the older females are going to have a different background, they need to build a different foundation. They need to relate to people who know about empty nest syndrome, who know about divorce, you know, and sometimes the younger ones just don't have that experience. So, you know, I think that was important to give them an option to do that too. So the camaraderie is the same, and that's so necessary. Let's have fun. Let's do things. Like, sobriety can be amazing, you know?
Oh yeah. Tons of fun.
Yes.
Mr. We're going to actually do our show from there. We're going to take our show on the road in honor of my birthday.
When Andy's not busy.
I bet he's been trying to Zoom call me for, like, this is the first time I've seen him.
I know. I'm very,
Isn't
very
50 nifty?
Nifty 50. All right. Let's change it off of me. Let's go to Willie. Okay.
Good morning, everybody. How are you?
Good morning.
So Willie,
Yes.
Alyssa, and Kevin Stevens and I all had cross-check. We were all and so
Get the three people in you hear. Hello.
You would go Heidi ho.
Yep.
So Willie, you know, Alyssa brought up dual diagnosis. Just, you know, bring that up again. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, I mean,
that buzzword.
Yeah, I mean, it's the expectation, it's not the exception. You know, I mean, in the course I teach the three conundrums. You know, addiction's primary, secondary. Anyone that goes through the detox is going to be depression and anxiety post-detox. It's a matter of a degree. And that's where, nutrition and exercise, having a complete physical with the primary care. So you have a baseline to go from, make sure to get the blood work done too. But yeah, I mean, it's prevalent. And the big one I see over and over for people that keep going back into detoxes over and over again, I mean, what I refer to as the big three: trauma, grief, and abandonment issues going back to family of origin that never get addressed. Yes, you also have depression issues, anxiety issues, bipolar disorder issues, schizoaffective issues, but I mean the big three, trauma, grief, and abandonment that never get addressed, because when patients ask me, well, what's normal? It's like, I don't know what's normal for you. I only know what's normal for me. The question to ask yourself is, your normal healthy or unhealthy for you? Because we can come to a consensus about that. I mean, how many times have you been working with somebody and you get talking about their family and everything else, and then you start hearing some of the values and beliefs that the family had, and it's no wonder these people were conflicted all the time. It's just crazy. You grow up in a house with chaos and you're hypervigilant, and you go over to a friend's house where it's quiet and you're practically having a panic attack because you're waiting for something to happen, but it doesn't in that house, so. I mean, yeah, I'm seeing a few smiles. There's identification, I think, around the room with that one,
You guys are you're all busy, right? Right now, I would say, right? Everybody's busy. Why do you think that is? What's going on right now that, I know you've been busy, Willie, with patients and
yeah. I mean, it's been interesting. Even in looking in my own neighborhood, it was like like the first 2 or 3 weeks, towards the end of March, whole families walking and everybody waving to each other and smiling. Now it's like Night of the Living Dead. It's just zombies walking by each other. They're on their 15th walk of the day. I mean, it's just insane. But I think now, I think people initially were numb, and I think now they're starting to feel, because I'm getting referral calls left and right, from all over the place, from Baldpate, from Bay Ridge, from McLean. So I mean, people are hitting the wall at this point. It's just too much. It's just too much, the stress.
I was on a Zoom call this week, or Monday night, and this family has a loved one who suffers from alcohol, right? And they're sober, but they're depressed. They have anxiety, possibly bipolar, and they decided that they don't want to take their meds anymore. They don't like how they make them feel, so the family, completely uneducated, was like supporting him and going cold turkey. We're thinking about letting him go cold turkey off the meds. And I was just like, no.
Never a good idea. But I mean, even with the antidepressants, they're not addictive, in the sense of you need increasing amounts to get the same effect. But, I've had family members over the years that have tried to come off an antidepressant by just stopping, and you're talking vertigo and pounding headaches.
Oh, it's horrible. Shifted medicines in the fall. The antidepressants, it was horrible.
Chris, one of the things that I say to people though too is if you're not going to go with psychopharm meds, I mean, like McLean's has had for people with bipolar disorder, they've had a taurine amino acid study, an omega-3 fish oil study for 30 years now. So you can go, from a homeopathic approach, and even then, sometimes, if the omega-3 and the taurine aren't enough, okay, then we add on a little psychopharm,
right. But the guest on the show, it was Charles actually, he said it took him 2 years to get balanced, and he started off with 8 meds and he's down to 3 meds. Yeah. And that was really encouraging to the family. The problem is whatever meds that this person was on were making him not feel okay. Like they had finally gotten to the point where the meds, I don't know if they just had all started working, and the med list that they were on, I don't understand why they would prescribe one med with this particular other med, because it makes you zombie.
Yeah, well, the problem I used to see all the time when I worked the inpatient scene and then the partial programs and stuff is sometimes we get people into the partial ad arbor, say in JP in the old days. It would be like they went to one psych hospital, they put them on 3 meds there. 2-3 months later, they're in another psychiatric hospital. So rather than reviewing those 3 meds, they add 3 more meds on top of that. Right. And the next thing you know, you've got somebody on, I don't think anybody needs to be on 3 antidepressants and 2 mood stabilizers. I mean, why don't we just make the kidneys and the liver explode,
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
they come in with like a laundry list of medication. Well, why are you
Ziploc bag?
Crazy. Yeah. I gotta take all these. You really don't. Let's consolidate here, you know?
Yeah. Alyssa, what are you saying right now?
I completely agree. I mean, I'm a curious mind. So like any doctor I've worked with, I typically speak to them about it. And I'm like, why is this happening? Like, why do doctors do this? Why, you know, and the last doctor I worked with, I mean, I love Yuasa, who works with Delphi at Serenity at Summit. But like my last doctor, he explained it perfectly. He's like, Alyssa, I'm going to address the symptoms. Like, that's why he used to do a full evaluation. Like, he's like, I know that some of these people probably don't need these medications, but without addressing them symptomatically now, they could relapse in the future. So it's like you have like this basic depression and anxiety.
Yeah, you don't treat a disorder, you treat the signs and symptoms of a disorder.
Right. So that's what it's happening is like they're doing this and they don't know, you know, we're not working with like, I mean, like I'm a part of this population. Like I wasn't the most honest when I came in. So they're also combating with that. Like, why are you on these meds? I don't know if you're being 100% honest. You were more honest with that doctor. Like a lot of them, like the doctor I worked with, for example, he would have me come into the office and be like, is he doctor shopping, Alyssa? And I was like,
Right.
I was like, man, like, so like I was like his point person. He's like, you're gonna come in here and communicate what I want to say because I have like the typical stereotypical doctor's bedside manner, and you're also going to tell me if they're manipulating me or not. Like they're still so, and I loved his and appreciated his transparency, but at the same time, it's alarming that that's like, you know, he's been in the field for 30 years and he's still like, those are the things that are really hard for them to spot because they're trained to address symptoms. Yeah. Like prescribers are trained to address symptoms. So like when people are coming out with like 8-10 meds, I'm like, I mean, I had a personal friend who was on 8 medications, 3 for the same thing. And I'm like, I don't even understand like how this is effective. You know,
Lily, isn't there a list? Isn't there something that goes to the pharmacies where they can see what they've already been prescribed? I think that's in Massachusetts, isn't that right?
Yeah, they do have the they do have the prescription registry in Massachusetts. But I mean, when you start getting into psychoactive drugs, I mean, unless there's direct things that the pharmacists are you know, something that pops up, you know, from the manufacturer of said drug that it doesn't interact, you know, it's not a good mix with such and such, then they're not going to see it. I mean, I know psychiatrists, you know, who really knew mental health but knew nothing about addiction. Nothing, you know, they'd have somebody coming off of alcohol, and it's like, well, why don't I, prescribe you some Librium to have at home in case you're feeling anxious? And it's like, what are you doing, you know, and stuff. So, I mean, Harvard Medical School up until 3 years ago, you could go 4 years of Harvard Medical School, and you were only offered one course. It was a joint course on mental health and addiction, and it was 20 hours, and you would only sit with actual patients for 2 to 3 hours out of that. The rest was academic. Yet any primary care can write a script for anything psychoactive, and the insurers are happy with that because then they're not being referred to a specialist where it's going to be a higher cost to the insurer. But, you know, I'm not an advocate of primary cares doing anything psychopharm. You know, I'll get some people say, well, it's just for depression. It's like, well, did they ask the person how long have you been depressed? Is there a situation in your life that could be the causation of it? You know, I mean, they don't want to ask them the big question, you know, have you had any suicidal thoughts? Yes. You know, do you have a plan? Yes. It's like, well, that doctor's not playing golf that afternoon. I can tell you that because he's going to have to get him inpatient. So, yeah, no, I'm not a believer in primary care prescribing anything psychoactive. And I'm getting tired of seeing advertisements on TV.
Ask your doctor.
Yeah.
Kimberly, what about you? What are you seeing out there? What are some of the things? I know you're getting pretty busy right now.
No, you're absolutely right. Why are you on all these? And so we try to kind of say, we're not going to deal with any medication, but you really take this back to a doctor that you trust, a specialist that you trust, because I agree with you, Lily. I think there needs to be more education on mental health across the board, not just for the stigma reduction, but for education for regular, like you said, for the PCP. They need to understand that they need to refer because they don't know exactly what to do.
Yeah, and in the old days, I mean, if you had somebody on 7 or 8 meds and everything was getting muddled, what they would do is they would do what they referred to as a medication holiday. You'd go inpatient, and they would strip you off all the meds, and then you'd see what you had. you'd see what
that's
you.
interesting.
But
That's an interesting
insurers don't want to do that because then you're talking about a 30-day period of time in order to do that process, and they don't want to pay for 30 days. But you've got someone on 7 or 8. The only way to do it safely is to have them inpatient where they can be monitored around the clock. But
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And they all have shelf lives too. It takes 2 weeks before you can actually see if it's working. So you got that whole time here too. But when people come in they're taking Adderall to for what should be, which kind of can speed you up, be normal, and then tapering that with Cymbalta as well as like you said, Librium, I think, and then they've got something to go to sleep. Then they got Trazodone to go to sleep.
Yeah.
It's like your body
it's
is
a,
not
a
supposed
hamster
to be
wheel.
like that.
It's
No.
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, Willie, you can tell me if I'm wrong, but that's why I feel like a lot of therapists I've worked with are always like, you need to get reevaluated at 9 months and 18 months, because that's when your chemicals from, the mental health and everything is starting to.
Technically, prescribers are supposed to do a review at least every 12 to 18 months. They're supposed to do a complete review of the medications that a person's on. I rarely see that ever done. I mean, I never hear about it.
I think they're quick to pull the trigger. Okay, well, you have this symptom. Okay, symptom, drug. This is what we can use. I mean, I called when COVID kicked in. I was having a really hard time with anxiety. I had like when my kids were out ripping and running, anxiety, that kind of uncontrollable, could not self-regulate. Called my primary, and she just put me on an anti-anxiety med, and I took it once, and it was like, yes, the anxiety was gone, but so was my self-awareness. So was my...
Yeah, it numbs you.
I mean, that's the issue. I mean, they're treating signs and symptoms, but what's the situation that's causing the anxiety? What's the situation that's causing the depression?
Right.
That's where, I mean, the prescriber and the therapist, I'm in touch with the prescribers of my clients and stuff too, especially if there's been a change made and I'm noting things. But I mean, there has to be a collaboration. It shouldn't just be, here's a pill, fix me now. That's the American way, it seems like. But, I mean, talk therapy with a lot of psychiatrists, not a lot, with a few psychiatrists is coming back into vogue now. They're seeing that it's not just all about the medication, So you are getting those that are not only doing the prescribing, but they're doing therapy as well. I mean, they're far and few between.
Willie,
yeah.
Do me a favor, turn down your audio a little bit.
Okay.
Because we're getting a lot of. There you go.
Yeah,
you have such a booming voice. You can carry it without it.
Is that better?
Much better, Will.
Yeah.
That's the Calabrese in me, It just gets loud, so Irish Italian mom.
Yeah.
Yes.
So would you say, okay, so we throw a lot of topics out. We talk about a lot of stuff. Let's, if I'm someone out there that needs help, right? Whether it's someone in my family or I personally need it, what kind of advice can you offer, right, to proceed right now in the COVID? What would you say would be the course of action right now? And is it different than it would be when there's no COVID?
I think one of the main things would probably be to be calling the BSAS helpline and stuff too, because they know where the availabilities are and what's going on. So I think that would be a major piece, to call the helpline that BSAS has.
BSAS stands for?
Really, what's
Bureau of Substance Abuse Services. They have what's called the helpline. I don't have the number off my head now, but you can Google it. But it's and they know where all the available beds are. They know who's taking folks, who aren't taking folks at the present time. So I would use that, especially within Massachusetts and stuff. And then again, I mean, if you I mean, it's all about networking for us. I mean, I'm always talking to people in other programs and other therapists to see what's open and what isn't open. So I mean, having a good contact. But the helpline, I think, for that anyone can go to, I think that'd be a primary source.
Primary source, and just tell them your situation and try to help you. Alyssa, what do you think?
I would say call Chris, call somebody like me. I mean, it's our job to really know what's going on and what's happening in the industry. Because they did, like Chris was saying early on, it was like, we have that time. And for example, the two of us, at least, we put in the dedication to learn a little bit about the person. So even if say somebody has an insurance that doesn't accept everyone, but there's a few facilities, but they have trauma surrounding treatment, you need to be really careful about which ones you're advocating to go to. When BSAS is just going to be like, here's what's available, here's who's taking it, go. Like they're not going to specify except for the symptom instead of the person. And I think that both are really, really important.
Because not one is right for.
No, it's the same.
One size fits all.
Not everyone goes on the same recovery path. Like I did 12-step recovery, but that doesn't mean everybody has to. There's tons of pathways into like a new life.
Yeah.
And the more you know the person, the better you can get them the help they need.
Yeah.
Right. And even after like I've helped people with aftercare. So like knowing if I have to send somebody to a facility that sometimes lacks in that, I can prep them and say like, this is what you need to advocate for. This is what you need to do. This is who you need to talk to. Cause like I'm familiar with the case manager in that facility. Like if she struggles and you're not finding anything, call me and I will help you find aftercare, such as just like a primary care or an IOP or, those are like the things sometimes, and that's just what we get paid.
And I think the big thing is like when we do that, when you get that call from somebody in a state facility who, the case management has a caseload of 30 people, and you get that phone call and you work with the case management and you work with that person, it's showing that person that somebody actually cares, We're not blaming that case manager. Hey, they can't give you that extra time. They have a caseload. But you know what? Give us a call. We'll help you. This is what we want to do. This is what we choose to do. And I think it's establishing those relationships with the people that you work with, that, they're going to say, hey, call this person. They'll help you. They'll help you from the time that you pick up the phone to, the time that you go in, out, and after. And I mean, Alyssa, I'm sure there's nothing like getting that text saying, hey, I'm 4 months clean today. Thank you so much. Just wanted to give you an update. Like that makes my day, man. It puts me in the best mood. And they always come when you need it the most.
Reminds you why you do what you do.
Exactly.
Yeah.
100%.
That's the fuel.
Yeah, it's unbelievable.
Yep.
All right. And you guys are very, it's, from what I know, there's a lot of dedicated people working in the area. They're like little factions, right? Of like really good people that are kind of, you're the ringleader.
And there's some that aren't, so you got to be careful about that too.
Well, listen,
it's like somebody you trust. It's really good to like, one, it's always good if you're a family member to just, find some own supports for you, because when you go to a meeting or, find an online group or whatever's comfortable for you, you're going to get introduced to the right people that have been helping other people. And that's a good resource, because it's like one thing that really startles me is Google. Like it's the first thing I go to. It's how I function to find numbers. But like when looking for treatment, it can get very, very, very dangerous.
And ugly, and ugly too.
They're not vetted.
Some of it's appropriate. Like some of it's actually the facility that you're trying to call, but sometimes it's not. Like you'll search a facility out and 3 other facilities pop up that don't even have the service you're looking for.
Just because they paid for Google, AdWords or
AdWords. That's just it.
Yeah.
That's the crazy thing. Like psychology, real quick, Psychology Today. Right? So if you have the whatever letters after your name and you're a licensed therapist and you have ABC, LW, you can put your name on Psychology Today. And right, which is fine, because you know what, but when somebody asks me for a psychologist, you can break it down. Okay, they have XYZ for insurance. This is what they're suffering from. And you can really break it down and it'll pinpoint, right? But the kicker is, and this happened and it upsets me, the kicker is you go to call that number and it's the call center for a treatment center that this particular therapist works in.
All the time.
And that call center will be like, well, actually, I really think you need treatment. And they'll talk those people into treatment. And that's like, what?
Yeah, I know in my own case, I have a Psychology Today therapist profile and stuff, and there's a routing number there that goes right to my business phone, to my business cell. So I can see how that can happen, though, that they would have that number going into an agency. That's not right.
So it's
wrong.
Angie's list. So we need to have like an Angie's list for treatment, because you really need to have people that you can trust, right?
Yeah, and then they get paid, and then it's never going to happen, Andy.
I know,
That's why the boots on the ground is the best way to do it. That's the way. getting local in your local communities, in your local AA groups is going to be the best way you can go, because you
It's the
can't trust
networking.
these.
Yeah.
It absolutely is. You
Yeah.
cannot trust the big conglomerates to not try to screw you. Sorry, not try to get your money, at least.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah,
Well,
too many out there. It's just viewed as a business. It's a business. That's
Yeah,
what it
well,
is.
part of it is that it's just that people don't really know how to take it. Like, it's a very difficult thing to navigate mental health and substance abuse treatment. It is so there's just so much, and people can get confused so easily. So it's just, that's why, like, Chris and I get hired the way we do, is because we have this trained experience, and like, we do go the extra mile. Like, part of us, like, being who we are, is our reputation. We care, that carries weight. Like, that's why I always say, I'm like, don't look for the center. I mean, like, if you know exactly where you're gonna go, skip the 3 first ads and go directly to the facility.
Right.
Just as
Don't get distracted. Go where you went. Yeah.
by the ads, it says ad right on the left from the teacher.
Yeah, it does.
What Google does.
I
But, like,
passed that.
right? I passed it. I don't do it now. Now that I'm trained, I'm like, but it is. It's just like, search out. That's why I think finding that network, because as much as people are like, oh, people that are struggling with mental health or substance abuse are the ones that need the community, or ones that need the support. Everyone that's attached to that person needs support.
Absolutely. Al-Anon is so underutilized. It's
Oh, well, the
ridiculous.
friends and family can end up more insane than the person with the addiction ever thought of being, because the person with the addiction is medicated out, but the family's not medicated out against them. They end up Fruit Loops, absolutely insane a lot of times, if they're not getting help for themselves. And that's one of the biggest things. When I get clients, it's like, I want to hear about their families or their relationships, and it's like, yeah, they need to get into treatment. Well, it's not there. I mean, I'll get the family member who will say, it's not my issue, it's theirs. It hasn't affected me at all. And it's like, oh, really? Okay, well, take the ruby slippers.
Good
it's
thing you're not
amazing.
angry.
Yeah, it's not my problem.
My mom always says, she's like, you're celebrating your anniversary, and I have 1.5 years more than you in my family support group.
Yeah.
So true.
I'm in recovery too.
Yeah.
She's like, I'm in recovery from you.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
You're the best, my friend. Hi.
Hi.
Hi. Can you give us your contact information if people want to reach out to you?
Yeah, of course. My name's, I know it says Delphine, but I'm Alyssa Horton. So you can find me pretty much anywhere if it's more comfortable for you on Facebook. My number is 508-450-7036. I'm available 24/7.
You too.
Healthgroup.com, whatever's most comfortable. I mean, I used to have people reach out to me on Snapchat, how they found it, how I even had a Snapchat.
Snapchat.
Yeah. I don't remember having that either.
God.
Any way that's comfortable for people. I have no life besides in dedication to others. So,
That's awesome.
yeah.
What about Willie, Andy? Willie, how can we get in touch with you, right?
Yeah, with me, my business cell is 781-572-2290, or you can email me at william.drinkwater@umb for University of Massachusetts Boston.edu.
That's right, because you're a scholar.
Yeah, with Mr. Christian and I have to talk to him in a little while. We're starting.
We want to get him on. Can we get him on here?
Oh, sure. Yeah, we're starting up the online
bank
tonight.
robber. You got to hear his story. It's
He's the
unbelievable.
best.
But we're starting.
Unbelievable.
We're starting to. He actually began on Monday, but we're doing MRC, Massachusetts Rehabilitation Commission. They picked us up 77 students that we're doing. Tonight I have a class of 50 at 5:30, and then I have a class of 25 at 7:30. So, but yeah, so we're going at it. But John's good. He's supposed to be calling me in a couple of minutes because we've had some screw ups with Zoom. Yes, Alyssa, I'll be glad to tell him you say hello.
And tell him, and he's somebody you all should.
He'd be a good guy to have on. Yeah.
Yeah. Tell him we want to have him on. All right, Kimberly, will you take us out for today?
Absolutely. All right, guys. Alyssa, thank you so much for coming on. It was wonderful having you. Willie, as usual, you add something bright to our show. Thanks.
Well, that's because I'm so mellow. I'm just.
You. No, we love having passionate people because it's good.
Hello.
Willie's really passionate.
And visit us on Facebook. Give our Facebook address, everyone.
The Facebook address is it's the map 2020.
That's it.
I always get, that's right. Yeah. Okay. You can also check our show notes for the information. And I think that's it. That's our show for the day. You guys, thanks again.
Tune in on Friday.
See you
Friday,
Love you guys.
1:30.
Love you
Bye,
guys.
everybody. Have a
Take
good
care.
week. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.